Hello everybody, welcome to today's webinar of the release highlights for rental. Today, Lucy and myself, both services expert, are very glad to present you the newest features. You will see that there are big changes, so let's go ahead and show you what those are. So we are both business analysts, services experts, so we're very happy to present you these new features. So the objective of this webinar is, of course, to make the community aware of the ongoing improvements. So to present and show the new configurations and the main improvements. And at the end, as for all webinars, we will be able to answer your questions via the chat. So don't hesitate to put them in the chat if you have them along the webinar. So the agenda for today. We will discuss the new configurations about the rental prices, how they work, what's the flow, and so on. Then we will do a recap about the rental and planning integration, which is new from 19.0, so very interesting. We would like to highlight this flow, which enables a lot of new industries. Let's say that. And then the Q&A as before, of course. So let's get started with the biggest feature, the simplification and the unified price lists. How does that work? So why were the rental prices revamped? You will see that now they work differently, they are computed differently. Why? So first, to make it more robust on a technical point of view. Secondly, we have simplified it, so we want to make it more robust and make it, to simplify it so that it's easier to use, easier to configure, and that the logic behind is simplified as well. And also mostly actually to have a unified price list with the sales and subscription app. So you might have noticed before that for the sales application, we really had advanced price lists that were configurable, which were not the case for the subscription and the rental app. So this was now added for those applications, and we want to have it all harmonized together. So those were the reason for the changes. Also, for the rental application, this is very important for this industry. We wanted to have a more complex computation of the price so that you can have a price decrease as the quantity on the rental order and the rental period increase. So let's not wait, let's get started and check how are the configurations for those new rental products.
Yes, so in terms of configuration, one of the biggest changes that you will see is that there is no rental checkbox anymore. So in order to configure a product as being a rental product, you're going to need to indicate a periodicity. The periodicity is located in the sales tab here, and then you see underneath that you have a rental section. And here, for example, we have indicated a periodicity being in days. So it means that the projector, in this case, will be a rental product. It can be rented afterwards. Then after that, the sales price will be based, the sales price for this rental product will be the base price. So here my periodicity is in days, so the price that we will then see in the general information will be the price per day. And in terms of periodicity, you can see it as well. Something that is a bit different from before is that it is unique. So here I can only indicate days on the product form, but it doesn't prevent you from renting this product in weeks or months. It's just that in terms of pricing, well, we're going to have to play with the price list, but we will show you that afterwards. There are also specific fields depending on the periodicity that you choose. We see it here on the screenshot. If you select a periodicity being in days, you're going to have two additional fields, the pickup and the return fields. But in order for those to appear, you need to have the website app installed. And here, well, this is going to allow you to basically set up a pickup time and a return time. Important to note, this pickup and return time will be enforced only on the website, on the e-commerce part, not in the backend of the rental app. Then we see as well that we have a periodicity being nights. Here you will still have pickup and return, but the logic will be a little bit different. The nightly booking is mainly used in the hotel industry, and here, well, the pickup will be actually the check-in and the return will be the checkout. In our cases, well, in most hotels, the check-in is more in the afternoon, around 3 or 4 p.m., and the checkout is in the morning at 10 or 11, and so here you have a constraint if you choose a nightly periodicity, that the check-in should be after the checkout. But so it's just something to keep in mind, and it's actually specific to the hotel industry, let's say. Finally, if you choose a periodicity being hours, you're going to have the possibility to add a padding time. Mainly, this means that you're going to be able to set up a minimum duration between 2 rental orders. So let's say that you need minimum 3 hours between a rental and another. Well, here, if your periodicity is hours, then you're going to be able to enforce it. Now, let's dig into the database and see what it looks like. So I'm here in my Odoo database, and we're going to go to the rental application. I'm going to go here into my products, and here we see the different rental products that we have. So if we have a look at the projector, I'm going to go first to my sales tab, and here we see that we have a periodicity in days, a pickup and a return, and we see that we have a sales price that is 40 euros. So this means that if I create a rental order with my projector and that I take it for 1 day, we see that here the price will be 40 euros. If we take it for 2 days,
It's correct. You can see it in the sales description.
Oh, good. 2 days, but then we should have, maybe we have it.
It has been updated.
Should be 80 euros from 8 until maybe here there is something else. Let's take, if we take it from here to here, there we go. I'm just going to update it. So here we do see that, well, here we have 2 days, so it's 2 times 40 euros, so we have 80 euros. This is here quite simple. Now we can have a look and see maybe what the new price list allows you to do. So I'll give you the word, Tatiana.
So yes, now that we have seen how the basis price for the rental works, how can we configure more advanced prices? So why do we have more advanced prices? It's to be able to apply a minimum quantity requirement so that a more attractive price applies. So this will depend based on the ordered quantity on the rental order, as well as the rental duration. So for instance, for how many days it is rented. So typical use cases for such industries, or when I rent it out for a week, it will be cheaper than if I rent it out for a day, at least per day. Then what are the conditions for those prices to be applied? It can be the price list itself, as you can see in the screenshot. It can be the minimum quantity, the validity, so it will be either a start date, so only one date, or a date range, so a start and end date. And you will see later on that this is very interesting because we will be able to have seasonal pricing. So one extra remark regarding the minimum quantity. It is quite specific for the rental price list that it actually takes into account the minimum quantity on the rental order, but actually also the minimum quantity of the rental period. So if I rent it out for 2 days, or if I rent out 2 products, it's actually the same, because the minimum quantity is the quantity on the rental order times the rental period. So that's how it is computed on the price list, and so both need to be respected for the for the price to be applied. So you can see that you can actually directly configure it on the product via the Prices tab, which is new as well, or you can actually directly create it from the price list menu. We also have an extra menu with price rules, so that you can just directly create a price rule and it will be all gathered into the same price lists. And you will see that if you directly put it on a price list, you have even more options, like to compute it based on a product category. You can also have a formula, which is totally known for the rental products. So here as well, you can see that there's a certain validity for the month of April, for instance. So that's really interesting. And we will show how this works. So typical use cases, as already mentioned before, for those advanced price lists are the weekly renting for the daily periodicity, which I will show, and also the seasonal pricing, which I will show even later on in the second part of this webinar. So let's get started first with the first one. I want to have a product which is rented on a daily basis, but also on a weekly basis. If it's rented out in a week, for a week, then the daily price should decrease. Let's go to my projector. I have it there. I can see that for now it is 40 euros per days. It's picked up at 9 and then returned at 18. And then here in the prices, I have configured that for my default price lists, I have a minimum quantity of 7. So this means that if I rent it out for 7 days, this extra price, or this new price, not an extra price, this new price will be applied. So I can see that it is now 30 euros per day instead of 40. So let's see how this works. If I create my rental order with my projector, let's take any customer, Abigail, for my projector. So, as Lucie explained, 1 day equals 40 euros per day. Or, if I use a whole week as such, I can see if I update my rental prices that I have 210. So it is 30 euros per day times the 7 days. And I can see it, by the way, there that is written. It is 7 days. So it's not here shown anymore. Before there was a small field showing the rental period, but this will depend on what's the periodicity of the product. So instead, it's just shown on the rental order line. Here the minimum quantity is 7. But this also means that if I want to have simply 1 day, of course the rental. So from the 14th, let's say like this, for instance, and instead I want so here again, just gonna update so you can see the difference. 1 quantity, 1 day, 40 euros. But if I put a quantity of 7, here it is, it's shown a bit differently because the unit price is still 30. So it's not 40 anymore, it became 30. And now the total price is then 210 as well. So you can see how the minimum quantity applies for the rental period and the quantity on the order. So what are the implications regarding these configurations and this new flow? First of all, and this is kind of a big one, but don't worry, there are some changes coming. You cannot have a product which is at the same time a sales a product and a rental product. It was already the case before that the best practice was really to split both, because most of the time the rental product is being valued as an asset and not as a stock. So anyways, this was best practice before, but now it's even more because the sales price, which is the base price for the rental product, should be used for the rental and not the sales anymore at all. This also implies that you cannot add a rental product on a sales order anymore. So this is really blocking to avoid any mistakes that you sell a rental product for its rental price, so that it's a huge mistake. But again, this will change. We will see later on. We will have a little sneak peek of the version 20, where you will see that this will be changed. Then, secondly, we have removed the fines which were there before.
Can you maybe explain a bit what were the fines again? I don't remember well.
Yes, exactly. So the fines before were fines that were applied to the rental order automatically if the customer returned the product too late. Now, we didn't see a much added value about this so far, so we've decided to remove it to have a more simplified rental application. And as such, I think it's best to have it manually set depending on the price, it really depends on the use case generally. So it was not really interesting to have it as a feature. Then, thirdly, there is the padding time. So before we had it on a global, we had it for all periodicities. So it was really configured on the product. So now it's really related to the hours. So if you rent it out for an hour, then you can set the padding time of 2 hours before, for instance, so that you can have some preparation time, or that you can, afterwards clean it up to rent it out again. It's not the case for the days and the nights, because we consider that if you have a pickup and return date, and that everything is cleaned up or prepared before and after those pickup and return dates. So also there's no default padding time on the company level anymore. So before we had a certain configurations, but actually to have it more simplified, you can simply have a default setting which you can use as shown on the screenshot. You can activate developer mode and set this for all of the products automatically then for the next products created. All right, then we have the pickup and return time for the daily rental. As Lucy explained very well, you can now have a pickup and return time for those dailies. And then on the website, this will be automatically applied, which I will show later on in the part 2 of the webinar as well. And then last but not least, this will probably confuse more than one person, the periodicity. So you have only one periodicity configured on a product, but no worries, this doesn't mean that you can have several prices depending on the periodicity. It is just configured differently thanks to the advanced price lists. So don't be astonished. All right, let's go to the second part of this webinar.
Yes, so Tatiana, as you mentioned in the introduction, we wanted to have a bit of a recap on the rental and planning flow, because it's not something that is well known among the Odoo community. So we wanted to show you a bit the possibilities on that, and specifically when and why you should use it. So basically, this integration between rental and planning is used and is very useful in case you want to manage your resource availabilities. And when talking about resources, we're talking specifically about employees or material or both. And here, well, if you don't have a resource that is available, the confirmation of the rental order will be blocked. So you will have an availability management for that. Then, with that specific feature, you're allowed to have an automatic resource assignation. So, for example, if you are renting some rooms and you have 3 rooms that are exactly the same, you're going to be able to allocate the rental of a room to one of those 3 rooms, for example, and this will be done automatically, so you don't need to select it manually every time. It's the same for your employees. If you have some for example, 3 employees who can do event management, here it will automatically assign the shift to one of those 3 employees. Then it also allows you to benefit from some features of the planning app. So the centralization between employee and rental. So this really allows you to see within the same planning both employees and materials. So that's quite useful. But what it also allows you to do is to have a flexible planning. So if you need to block your resource just before the date of the rental, for example, then in the planning, you can just create a shift. In rental, you would have to create a fake rental order in order, for that specific timing to be blocked.
What's the kind of use case for this flexible planning, for instance?
Yeah, so typically, you have an event, and before the event, you actually need a day or 2 of, in order to prepare the room, etc. For the setup. Then you can just simply create a shift manually and block it in your planning, for example.
Okay, interesting.
Finally, like I said, so you benefit from some features of the planning app, mainly everything that is time off. So of course here, if you have some resources that are on holidays, then they're not going to be assigned any shift. You have the auto plan, which is linked as well to the automatic resource assignation. You have all of the filters that you can use in the planning app, and so this really allows you to have something that is way more complete, let's say so.
Nice.
But it's maybe time for us to show you how that works. Tatiana, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Indeed. So here we'll show you how it works on the front end and also in the back end in the planning application. So first of all, let me show you how the products are configured. We have both our event manager and event space, because we are a company that rent out event rooms for team buildings, for instance, and for every team building there is a host which is like an event facilitator, let's say. So my event space, both products are configured as being a service. They don't need to create anything on order regarding projects, but here they should plan a service as a certain role. And of course for this they should be prepaid in a fixed price.
Is there something we need to configure on the role specifically in order for the sync to work?
Exactly. So that's a very good question. I have here my event room, which is a role, and for this role I have actually 3 different rooms which can be used. And then also very important is here to have this activated, which is a field that shows once you have here a rental service linked. And yes, then you can activate it. So this really makes sure that there are no more quantities rented than you have available internally. That's very important. Okay, furthermore, I would also like to show the seasonal pricing. So there are a lot of team buildings organized in May, so I would like to have a higher price for that. If I go to my prices tab, I can see that for my default price lists, I have validity in May from the 1st until the 31st that I have a higher price. So instead of having, I thought it was 300 euros per day, I have here 400 euros per day. And the same goes actually for my event manager. I can check here, I have the same configurations. Here the role is a bit differently, event manager. And for this one, both Lucy and I are available to host these events. And that's it. So I see that it was archived. Let's just unarchive this one. Okay, then it should work. Great. So how does it look like on the website? Let me show this to you. So I can go to my event space website page. I can see that automatically it shows the price, the name, the beautiful picture. I can choose a certain rental period. So let's say next week, Thursday, and I can see that the price adapts automatically. It is 300 euros a day. So what is a bit differently compared to before? You see that here, because I don't have several periodicities anymore, the price will simply adapt depending on the conditions that the customer chose. And I don't have here an overview anymore of the different prices. It's just directly computed there. It's very simple. So here also, if the product was here, my event rooms were not available at all, I would have here a red date showing that it's not available, and I will not be able to pick it up for that date or to reserve it for that day. What is also interesting, as mentioned before, is the seasonal pricing. So if I go, for instance, to the 5th of May, I will see that my price will adapt automatically. So that's super interesting, automatically done, and that's completely new for this version. Let me go back for a better overview to the month of April, to the 21st. Great, and I can add it to my cart. And I can do the same for my event manager. So one is a material that is reserved, and this one is an employee who is reserved. And you can see here the rental period is grayed out because there's only one rental period per order to simplify it. So I cannot choose different dates. I can simply add to cart, and that's it. Here, let's check my cards. Great, I have here a $400 invoice, which I can pay directly. And so something that's also interesting, as you saw maybe before in the screen just before, the pickup hours were automatically set thanks to the configuration of the periodicity with the pickup and return. So both were configured on 9 hours until 5 p.m., which is then automatically set on the rental order. So let me show this to you. if I check my rental order, what do I see? I see indeed that for the 21st of April from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. my 2 products are reserved for 1 day. So that's great. I can also see here that the shifts have been automatically planned, so it's nothing to do here. But before clicking on this one, I would also like to show you the rental schedule. So same here for the rental schedule. If I go on the 21st, I can see that both products have been reserved, so that's awesome. But because I would like to have a bit more flexibility on, like, if I want to add another employee for something else for this event, I can actually go to the planned hours. I can go to my planning shift, and I can see that indeed here I was assigned as an event manager to this shift, and same for event room 1. So as such, if for instance I want to block this room the day before because it should be cleaned up or something, I can simply clean room set up. I can simply do it like that. I could even go further and have a specific role saying cleaning services, but anyway, as such, I can see that it is blocked for that moment as well. So that's great. I think this shows a lot of the rental and the planning integration, all the, the advantages of using the planning app. Well, quite briefly, because there are a lot, so I'm not able to show everything, of course. And this can be used as for the event industry, but also for the booking industry. We have a very specific hotel industry. If you're renting if you allow guests to book rooms for holidays, similar to an Airbnb, of course, or hotel rooms, then make sure to download the industry in the apps module.
Okay. That was it then for the rental and planning. Now maybe let's see what's planned for Odoo 20, if we have anything coming for the rental app.
Indeed, we have quite some changes coming. A bit less than, smaller changes than the big pricing recomputation, although those are very interesting as well. So for the sneak peek 20, version 20, we have here the calendar days. So this means that you will be able to have, let me explain it correctly. So for the pickup and the return hours, so far they're not blocking, but here you will be able to select some days on which your shop is closed, and you cannot, the customer cannot select those days and those hours on the front end on the website. This was kind of already the case before, so you could select certain dates, certain calendar days, but here it will be very specific regarding the hours as well, and mostly it will be actually configured based on a working schedule. So this really allows more flexibility, and you can have a certain flexible or not working schedule and so on. Secondly, you will be able to switch between a sales order and a rental order. So as mentioned before, now, unfortunately, for the moment, you cannot have a rental order on a sales order, and you cannot sell a rental order. So we want to reintroduce this flow of selling a rental order at the end when it's not being rented anymore. Thirdly, we have the rental schedule and orders improvements. So you might have seen some already. So on the PDF and on the portal of the rental quote, we can see that there's no periodicity mentioned directly on the global order. It's mentioned on the products, and there's a better user interface. And also regarding the schedule, you will have nicer colors depending on the state. You will see the resource that is linked to the rentals order and so on. Then the periodic surcharges is a really highly requested one. You will be able to have higher prices depending, for instance, on the weekdays. So perhaps on a weekend it will be cheaper or higher prices depending on your business. So this is possible with those periodic surcharges. And then last but not least, again, the e-commerce stock display. So for now, there are some inconsistency in the stock computation. So this will be revamped to have a more consistent behavior. And we will introduce the click and collect flow, which is highly requested as well for the rental websites. And the rental dates will be automatically set on those click and collect dates.
Thank you, Tatiana. I think it's time for a little Q&A. We will come back in a few minutes in order to answer your questions.
Yes, make sure to stay. Hello, welcome back. So we will get started with the Q&A. Let's get started with the first question from, PE for PTV. The two first questions are both related to the same use case. So here, I will rent monthly. Is it possible to have renting by subscription? And the second question is, I rent spaces for unlimited time that I invoice per month, minimum one and new invoice each month. All right, so both are actually related to the same use case and to the same flow. So the rental application is really interesting if you have, first of all, a specific period, so a start and end date, and if it's prepaid, so if there's a fixed price depending on that period. Here, if you don't have a specific end date, if you have a recurring invoice, compared to the rental where you have a one-shot invoice, if you have recurring invoice and no specific end date, we recommend rather using the subscription app because then you will be able to have the SEPA integration and so on for the payments. You will have all of the subscription configurations and features that are available for this flow, and which are most of the time more needed than the rental application itself. And then for the third questions.
Yes, here we have, is it possible to rent by short periods like hour or even half hour with reservation? Here, so in the periodicities you do have hours, so it's no issue to only rent for 1 hour. You don't have a periodicity that is, I think my mic is off. You can answer the question.
Okay, sorry. So we have a periodicity which is minimum of 1 hour. So the price can be computed if you play a bit with the advanced price list. For instance, you could put half a quantity will be half the price of an hour. And then if you have a whole quantity, which means a whole hour, then it will have, maybe let's show it because then it will be easier. If I go to my database, products, so the rental products, here I have a printer, for instance. The sales price is per hour. So you can see here there's no half an hour, but this doesn't block you for renting for half an hour. The customer on the website will still be able to select half an hour and on the rental order in the backend as well. So what you can do is then place with the advanced price list to say that if you have a minimum quantity of 0.5, it will be a certain price, and if it's a whole quantity, then it will be another price. So you can play around with the advanced price list to see what you prefer.
Thank you, Tatiana. My mic issue is fixed by now. Sorry about that. Maybe the next one, it's Daniel again, who's asking, can we display the date in European format? This is not really related to rental, but it's actually linked to the language that we're using on the database. And actually on the language setting, you're able to choose the format date. So
can you show it maybe?
Yeah. So this is really flexible. So in case you have the same issue in your database, let's go to the settings here. And
maybe on the users.
Yep.
So it's really user specific. One user can have one language with its own date format, and another user can have another date format.
Add the developer
yes, developer mode needs to be activated.
And here you can just have a look at the language. Here it's English US, and here we have the date format. So if you're using another kind of English, or you're using English US and you want it to be the right format, then you can just simply change it right here. So that's not a fixed thing.
Actually, English for the UK has the format, like the European format, if that helps you. All right, so the next questions. We have multiple from Pivot King. We have multiple rental locations where our customers can pick up the rental gear. Can you support that? Preferably including transport assignments to send the gear to the correct location. So I'm not sure if with rental locations you mean several warehouses, or if you have several locations inside of the same warehouse. But anyways, this is completely possible. The first thing you would need to do is here in the rental, because since version 17 or 16, it is now integrated with the inventory app. So you're able to activate the rental transfer so that every good that is rented out will also have a stock move that is related. And it's actually it behaves as a sales product, but that of course that returns. So you can do anything with that. You can have quality checks also, for instance. Let me just go back to the question. So yes, so as for other sales products, you are able to have several locations inside of one warehouse. So you can organize your warehouse, and you can also play around, and if you needed to have several receipt orders, several delivery orders, depending on where they are. And then including the transport assignments, same here, you can have several delivery orders if you prefer, and then assign them to different technicians. So yes, that's... did I understand the question right? I think that's all good. Not sure that for the pickup flow on the website, it will be possible to have several warehouses. So that's something to test, maybe on a roadmap or something, if this was the question, sorry.
We can maybe go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
We have Bob Klein55 asking if, so the question is, we have a lot of products in rental with pricing. Will they update automatically when we go from 19 to 19.2? I'm not sure about how this will be handled in the upgrade. However, you can or ask our support team or simply test your database in 19.2. I don't think that all of your prices will be taken over, but to be checked. But yeah, our support can...
I don't think it's the purpose anyway, because now we can use the formula for the advanced prices, so it's even easier to use. So perhaps it's a good moment where you can revamp it to have a better, more robust calculation of the rental price instead of having to add it per periodicity. Okay, let's go on to the next question. So... it was a Spanish question, right?
Yeah.
So the Spanish question has been translated thanks to our marketing colleagues, marketing team. Translation of the question: how can we get a planning for future products to rent from several stocks? So here you can have several warehouses, several stocks, both if the product is rented out, no matter which stock, it will be shown on the rental schedule. So here on my rental schedule, for instance, I can see here the different printers, the different projectors. It doesn't matter from which stock they are. I could possibly, if I want to group by warehouse to see what is where, but otherwise everything is nicely grouped together, so you can have a nice overview of them all together. But of course, as always, you can also just directly go to the product itself. I think the printer is storable. You can check the stock on hand. You can check the forecast. If you have several warehouses there, you will be able to select a warehouse. So that's the same as for inventory products, sales inventory products. All right, so let's go on to the next question. Yes, the coefficient one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our rental pricing is based on a coefficient. One day, 100%, following days is then 50%. Can this be managed in 19.2? Do you want to answer the question?
Yeah. So here you don't have a specific feature in order to say that from the second day it will be 50% off, but you would need to actually specify it in your price list. So here, if from day 2, if you always have 50% on the following days, it means that actually your daily price decreases the more days you take. So you would do it indirectly with the price list. But it might ask you to recompute your daily price, actually. If you want to add something
that's
to that.
Via the advanced price list then, indeed.
Maybe a last one.
I see that there are two last questions. So there's one that is referring to the subscription use case. So I will say it here. Thanks for your answer. Do I mix e-commerce of my box, each have a number, and a subscription of selling box sales by subscription? So if I understand it well, the question is here, how do you configure this? So indeed, if you sell a certain box, I guess, you will have a storable product, so a product which is configured as a good. This should not be recurrent as subscription product, because otherwise it will be delivered every month, for instance, which is not the purpose. So let me show it. I think it's better. let's go to my sales app. I have the products. So I would have here my storable products, so the box, I guess. Sorry, okay, we don't have the subscription app installed. But you would have here the good, and then this would be then a zero price because the price is on the subscription itself. And then you would have a subscription product. Normally, if the app is installed, here you can activate a checkbox and then you can configure a recurrent price per month. And then you can put both products on your subscription order. So yes, one product of type good and one product of type subscription and service then. I hope this answered the question. And also this allows you to have the serial number on the box on the storable product. And then we can go on to the last question.
Last one, yes. We have a last question here. It can be automated so that an order of 100 units can be served from 2 warehouses, since one of them only have 80 units, and then the return do the same. You want to have a look? So on rental products, if the transfers are activated, you can have, I don't remember the name exactly, but you can have a preferred return return location. How do you say that? It's the same for sales products. It's like a preferred receipt location, storage location, I think. I think it's called storage locations. So when the product comes into your warehouse, be it from a vendor or back from a customer, it will go back to this default storage location. So that's something you can use. Now for the quantities itself for the warehouse, I'm not sure. I think you could totally do it. With replenishments between warehouses?
Yes, probably with replenishments between 2 warehouses. And well, I think that's really, I completely think it's okay. It's configurable. I don't have a one and all solution to suggest by heart now, but I think I don't see any blocking point though. All right, that's it for the questions already. Thank you very much for your attention, for your questions, for being there. We're very happy to present you these flows, these new features. Make sure to use them. Make sure to provide feedback if you have any. We are glad to listen to you. And yes, have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.